Every single resource on internet has a URL. So basically, if you have a couple of nodes in your database and every single node has a unique ID, the URLs of these nodes would look something like this. Now this part in each of these is known as a path, and every single path is pointing to one resource. Now if you look closely, only this part of each path is changing. What we can do is replace it with a variable, something like this. Now this particular variable is known as a path parameter, and this can take any value, id equals 1 or 2 or 3. We sometimes even call this particular path as an endpoint. Now in order to code this in FastAPI, the first thing we have to do is make a GET request to this particular endpoint. What we expect from the user is an ID. So we create a function where we are expecting that user is sending an ID, and we grab that node from the database and return it. Now one of the superpowers of FastAPI is data validation. What we can do is force the user to only send an ID as an integer, because we have integers as IDs in our case. So what we can do is use type hints to tell FastAPI that we expect integer ID, something like this. Let's say we have an endpoint nodes. When user accesses this endpoint, it returns all of the nodes there are in the database. Now this can be really inefficient if you have a lot of nodes. What we can do is return a limited number of nodes. To achieve that, what we can do is use a query parameter, something like this. Here we limit the number of nodes returned. Now the question arises, what is the difference between a path parameter and a query parameter? Both of them are coming as an argument to a function. How does FastAPI know which is a query parameter and which is a path parameter? For that, let's take a look at this code. Notice here we have the variable node ID in this particular decorator, but when it comes to limit, it is not in here. So FastAPI knows if an argument is not in this particular decorator, it's a query parameter, and if it is in this particular decorator, then it is a path parameter. Another difference is a query parameter always comes after a question mark, but a path parameter comes after a forward slash. And this was all for path and query parameters. See you soon.